Hey guys, welcome to PreSonus Live. I'm Rick Knockvey.
I'm Ray Tanzen.
And we're here showing the latest member to the Studio Live Series 3 family, the Studio Live 24.
Yeah, we just announced the 24 last week at Music Messa. So now we're super excited to be able to show you the full lineup of the new Series 3 mixers. We've got the Studio Live 16, the Studio Live 24, and the Studio Live 32.
So obviously you can see there's, a difference in each of these mixers with the number of faders, but really what's happening under the hood? What's the real difference between these three mixers?
Well, under the hood, all three are exactly the same. They have the same DSP under the hood. So all three mixers are a full 32 channels of mixing with 16 flex mixes and 4 fixed subgroups and 4 internal effects buses. So under the hood, exactly the same. The only difference is going to be the frame size, how many faders you have and how many inputs and outputs you have physically on the back of the mixer.
Okay, so obviously if I buy a Studio Live 16 or a 24 and I have the full DSP, how do I really take advantage of the full DSP? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, it means that the extra inputs on the 24, you have 8 additional inputs, and the 16, you have another 16 additional inputs. Those can all be brought in digitally over the USB or from the SD card or AVB.
Nice.
So right now, what that means, you can do playback from a computer, for example. If you have a lot of backing tracks, you can bring those in without eating up the analog inputs that you have right on the mixer. And also, in the future, later this year, towards the end of the year, we're also going to have stage box options, which means that if you can get by with 16 channels today, down the road, you can add a stage box and take your Studio Live 16 to a full 32 channel mixers just by adding that stage box.
That's pretty awesome. So it really is cool for bands even right now that are using any DAW to be able to play back and perform with. I mean, one of the things that's great is like let's say on the 24 channel mixer, I don't have to eat up those 24 analog ins. I've got 8 additional digital ins coming in from the computer, and they show up on QMix, they show up on UC Surface. So musicians have to control these with their phones. And of course, one of the coolest new things about these mixers is that now we're supporting Android. So I got to tell you, I've been a total Mac fanboy my whole life, and this was the first gig this past weekend that I actually used an Android tablet. Bought it on Amazon for $98 and used it on QMix, and it's great, And so the beauty is now Android and iOS are supported on all of these, and not only these, with the AI and the RML consoles too.
That's right. And a little sneak peek, a little surprise, we actually have UC Surface coming to Android as well. That's in beta testing right now, and we hope to have that all squared away and out into the public within the next couple of months.
That's awesome. So, now that these have been out in the market, the 32's been shipping for a couple of months, the Studio Live 16 just started shipping. We're starting to hear a lot of feedback from users that are using them out live and using them in fixed installations. What are some of the things people like the best about these new consoles?
I have to say, hands down, the thing that we're getting the most feedback that people are excited about is the SD card recording.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So the Series 3 has a full 34 multi-track SD card recording built in. So that's your 32 input channels plus your main left-right mix. And that's all recorded without a computer direct to SD card.
That's freaking awesome. So the beauty of that is you get to the gig, you don't have to have your computer, you pop in the SD card. How long can you get of recording time on an typical 32 gig SD card?
Well, we support SD cards up to 32 gigabytes, and so with that 32 gigabyte card, if you're recording all 34 channels, you're going to get about an hour and 45 minutes of record time.
That's pretty killer. So, basically easily get a long set, and you can have multiple SD cards, and then you just take the SD card at the end of the gig, pop it in your computer, drag the files into your favorite DAW, and mix. Now, one of the other really cool things that we've been hearing from customers is the new effects engines. What's some of the feedback?
Well, with the Series 3, we built all of the DSP brand new from the ground up. And that includes now we have new models of EQ and compression on every single one of your input channels. And these are actual circuit emulated models of real analog vintage outboard gear. So with two different models, in addition to the standard model for both your compression and your EQ, we have a tube and an FET compressor. And on the EQ side, we have a passive EQ, and we also have a vintage EQ. These just sound incredible. The feedback we're getting from people about how easy it is to dial in a great sound and how wonderful these new options in the DSP sound to help them get an amazing mix live that rivals what you have available to you on your plugins in the studio. In fact, a little bit later, we're going to do some examples of that, let you hear it, and we're also going to post those files online so that you can have a chance to actually compare, the new models to not having any processing or having the standard processing as well.
That's killer. That's really cool. So we're going to have some prizes also we're going to be giving away. We have the brand new Air 10 speakers, live sound speakers, and we're going to be giving away a pair of those, and also we're going to be giving away Studio One Professional to one of you lucky people out there in internet land. And then one thing about the Air 10s that I was just going to mention, my band has been using PreSonus speakers, obviously, for a long time. And, we once the Air speakers started to ship, one of the things that people told us was they just can't get over how much sound comes out of such a lightweight speaker. One of the reviews that just came out in Performer magazine, I got to read you guys this. This was kind of the synopsis from the review. So it says, we were able to test out the PreSonus Air 10 active PA speakers over the course of a few weeks. We are happy to report that these might just be the hidden gem of the live sound world.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool.
And my favorite part, so like any good review, it's got its pros and cons, right? Pros, lightweight, fantastic audio quality, easy to use controls, and cons?
None. So really awesome. So one of you lucky people out there is going to get a pair of the Air 10s. And then also we're going to give away Studio One Professional. So I can hear Mike up in the next room tuning up the drums. So we're going to get some sounds in a few minutes and do a little tracking.
We've got Mike is going to play some drums. Then he's going to come in. We're going to listen to some of these new models that we have for the EQ and compressor. And then when we're done with that, I'll come grab you, Rick, and we'll wrap up our PreSonus Live with some Q&A and some giveaways.
All right. We'll see you in a little bit.
Hi, I'm Jim Odom. I'm the founder and president of PreSonus Audio Electronics here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We could never have anticipated the effect that Studio Live had on the digital mixer market. The Studio Live was the first affordable product that had an ecosystem behind it. So the Studio Live 1642 came out. Within 6 months, we introduced iPad control of that mixer, and that was the very first. That whole environment is what created the modern mixer market right now that we're all enjoying. With that platform now, we're able to give you a whole new array of processors. We can do vintage modeling. We can do beautiful reverbs. We can also do routing via networks and things like that. In the new Studio Live products, we kind of reinvented the whole parameter control area of the product. You also have a touchscreen that works together with this new sort of configurable fat channel. And I think the workflow in general is going to be a game changer. It's customizable. You're not fixed to one set of controls. You can create a fat channel that works the way you want it to work, and it's going to sound gorgeous. I'm most proud of the combination of features that we invented to put in this product, and the workflow as well. The workflow of one-to-one motorized faders for 32 channels of inputs, and the ease of switching between multiple scenes and multiple levels of workflow.
I'm Ray Tanzen. I'm a product manager here at PreSonus, working on our digital mixers. With the Studio Live 32, we aim to completely leapfrog anything that's out on the market today. We started by taking a look at what our customers really loved about what it means to be a Studio Live mixer. And we looked at all the other mixers that are on the market, high-end mixers. We spent time sitting behind mix engineers, everything from big arena shows to volunteers at a little 200-person church, to see how people worked. And then through research with our engineering team, figure out ways we could utilize some new technologies that are available today to encapsulate the Studio Live experience for new customers in a way that's going to bring solutions to them that are unimaginable 5 years ago. The Studio Live experience, I didn't even know what that necessarily meant. So I went to our current Studio Live customers to see, what is it that you like about Studio Live? What does Studio Live mean to you? And what I found out is the primary thing that Studio Live is ease of use. That, to us, kind of was the cornerstone when we set out to design the Series 3, was make it easy to use, easy to learn, and sound great.
My name is Ryan Roden, and I'm a hardware engineer here at PreSonus. I was the lead hardware engineer on the Studio Live 32 project. Working on the Studio Live 32 has been a really great experience. We've always designed really good mixers here at PreSonus, but for this particular project, we were able to take the entire mixer platform from the ground up, totally rethink how we do everything, come up with an entirely new mixing platform. So we enhanced the user experience by including the same great sounding audio that all of our mixers have. We also added a ton of processing in this model. And the user experience is going to be really great with the moving faders, colored display. For the analog audio path on this particular product, we wanted to have the shortest, cleanest, most efficient path from the XLR connector all the way to the converter. So what we did is we actually designed this analog audio path with no cables. That allows us to get lower distortion, lower interference, and a much cleaner signal overall. So we decided to put in the remote X-Max preamp. This is the same preamp that's in the Studio 192 interface, as well as the RM mixers. Now we have digital control over it, which allows you to recall preamp settings, as well as control them over iPads, network, etc. The processor architecture in the Studio Live 32 is the best processor architecture that we've ever designed here at PreSonus for a mixer. The Studio Live 32 has been one of the most exciting projects I've ever worked on. All of the new features, all of the new design elements, I really can't wait for customers to get their hands on this product.
My name is Brian Otterfred. I am the R&D engineering manager. It is my job to realize the vision of product management. So the Studio Live 32 is a very unique opportunity. Engineers don't get so many chances to take a great product and generate a brand new product where you have the opportunity to look at every possible subsystem, every bit of functionality, and just make it better. We took everything that was great, everything customers liked about the previous generation, and we asked ourselves, how can we make it better? This generation of Studio Live mixers has some notable new features. Moving faders, a graphical touchscreen LCD that we're very, very proud of. We've also added some advanced audio networking to this mixer and USB transport functionality that has no equal in the market currently. We've made absolutely no compromises in the audio path. We've come up with unique mechanisms of user interface control we think are going to be very convenient and accepted and well loved, and quite honestly, we expect a lot of competitors to follow our lead with this mixer.
We have engineers in the United States, we have engineers in Germany, engineers in Canada, that worked brilliantly to bring these products to market. We have some of the most talented programmers in the industry, and I'm sure of that. We also have some of the most talented hardware guys and mechanical designers. And the level of passion that went into this product is phenomenal. We're proud of it.
Hi, welcome back. So now I've got Micah set up in the studio with some drums. We've got a session set up in Studio One so we can do some recording. We're gonna do some simple drum tracks so that way you have something you can listen to. You'll hear them here as we're doing it, but we will post them online so you can listen to them for yourself through your own system, through the dry tracks as well as the process tracks with the different EQ and compressor models that we have for the fat channel. So we're doing a simple setup. That way we don't muddy it up with a bunch of other sounds. We have kick, snare top, snare bottom, and overheads. And then I'm also going to be doing the recording to SD card. So I'm set up to record to Studio One via USB, but I'm going to use the SD card as well just as a backup. This is a cool feature in the studio. So it's not just a feature for live recording. You can also use this as a backup in the studio or to be capturing all of your recordings in the studio. So maybe between takes, somebody hits a really awesome groove or lick that you want to have. Even though you weren't recording in Studio One, if you have that SD card just recording constantly in the studio, you can capture some of those magical moments. So let me first record arm my channels. It's really easy to do. I'm not going to be recording all 34 channels because it's just a simple setup. So I'm just going to record a handful of channels here. So we've got our kick on one, snare top, snare bottom, and then our overheads. And for kicks, let's go ahead and record our master too. So I'm done with that. I'm going to hit record here. So I'm recording on my SD card first. Again, it's a backup. I want to capture some of that additional magic we might have. So looks like we're good. We're recording here. I'm going to jump over here, make sure everything's good. All right, let's check in with Micah. Hey there, Micah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You ready to lay down some smooth beats for us?
Smooth as possible.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is start off with something a little light and then work our way up to some heavier stuff. That way we've got some nice dynamics to show off the variety of sounds coming through this new modeling processing that we've got in our DSP. Does that sound cool?
Sounds great.
Fantastic. All right, give me 1 second. Make sure we're recording in Studio One. All right, we're rolling. All right, that was fantastic, Micah. Thanks. So why don't you come on in and we'll take a listen to what we've got. So while Micah makes his way in here, I'm going to get the board set up so we can play back, and we'll be right back.
The Series 3 Studio Live delivers unprecedented power in digital mixing. With the Studio Live 16, we pack that same incredible power into a compact, rack-mountable frame. The Studio Live 16 is about extreme portability. It means less space in the truck. It means convenience for fly-in gigs. It means more seats for your audience. And with the same 32 channels and over 20 mix buses as the Studio Live 32, the Studio Live 16 means no compromises. You'll have the same multi-track recording without a computer. State-spaced modeled emulations of analog outboard gear, and flex mixes that can change between AUXs, subgroups, and matrix mixes. With Capture, we bridged the gap between the stage and the studio with simple one-touch recording that could then be opened in Studio One along with your complete mix scene. Now, that technology is integrated into the mixer itself. Pristine, uncompressed multi-track recordings without a computer. Plugins that model vintage gear are a mainstay in the studio. Now, take those sounds live with vintage EQ and compressor model options available on every input channel. Of course, you also get them in Studio One with the new Series 3 Fat Channel plugin. 16 studio quality recallable X-Max preamps give your mix a clean and pristine sound. An additional 16 channels can be mixed in digitally with built-in AVB networking, USB interface, or the multi-track SD card. Packing a full 32 channels with complete fat channel processing into this portable powerhouse. We've also included the same fat channel layout alongside a gorgeous 7-inch touchscreen to let you navigate with ease and precision. Take advantage of custom user layers in both the fat channel and faders, as well as 24 DCA groups to personalize your mixing experience. An unprecedented level of workflow customization that makes the Studio Live Series 3 an extension of yourself and your way of mixing. This is a new era in digital mixing. This is Studio Live.
All right, Micah is now here in the control room,
I'm movable.
and we've got the tracks that we recorded in Studio One. By the way, be sure to stay tuned because at the end of this broadcast, we're going to be giving away a copy of Studio One Professional and a pair of Air 10 monitors. Those are the new 10-inch PA speakers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fancy.
they are. They're really nice.
I like them a lot.
They're lightweight.
They fit in my RAV4.
See that with your drum set.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so I've got your tracks here. We have a few different EQ and compressor models. So on the compressor, we have a standard compressor. We also have a tube compressor and an FET compressor. And then on the EQs, we have our standard EQ, which is a 4-band fully parametric EQ. And then we also have a passive EQ and a vintage EQ. So let's start off with the kick.
Great.
Let's just start with the standard EQ, just as a kind of a baseline.
Sure.
All right, so let's play back these tracks. So I've got the standard EQ, the standard compressor up here, and that's my control. So let's go ahead and engage that. Start dialing in some settings. I'm gonna get a little bit of better ratio. Let's back off this here.
You mind if I turn it up a little bit?
Oh yeah, go for it. There we go. Get a little bit there. Just our attack and release. Let's let that attack come through a little bit. There we go. So that's without. That was pretty basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you like out of your kick?
As far as compressor goes,
Yeah.
I like it to. So typically, if I play a lot of da-dump, that kind of a thing, the first note sometimes gets swallowed up dynamically. So just, I guess I should say on the softer end of the dynamic levels, I need it to be louder.
Okay.
But then when I crank it up, of course, the louds are too loud.
Got it.
And so I need to kind of tame that. So that, I
Understood.
mean, that's typical compression, but that's what I do with it.
All right. Well, let's start off with the FET compressor. See what we can get out of
let's
that.
see that.
All right. So here's our FET compressor. So we've got controls here. Now I can control them here like I did with the standard EQ. I can also control them by just touching a parameter in the screen.
Nice.
With these models, when I've got the standard one up here, it's really comfortable for me to just jump to the knobs.
Sure.
But personally, I like when I'm using one of the models to just do it here because I can jump to some of the things faster than I can on the knobs, but I still have that nice physical control here. So let's see what we can get with this guy. Have you ever used one of these compressors before? It's a little different than a standard compressor.
Okay, talk to me.
So you have some basic ratio settings here. And then you have all. This is basically the same as in the actual analog hardware gear. There's a trick you could do, and you can push in all 4 of your ratio buttons at the same time and get this really interesting characteristic to the attack and release of the compressor.
I did not know that.
So on this one, on most compressors, you're going to have a threshold.
Okay, sure.
This doesn't really have a threshold. What you have is an input control and an output control. So the way that you adjust these two change, what you're feeding into the compressor and out of the compressor. So the more you turn up your input, the more it's going to feed into that compressor, and the more it's going to compress.
So it's like having a lower threshold.
Exactly. So as you turn up the input, it is equivalent of kind of lowering that threshold.
10-4.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's play around with it. See what we would like. Now you're going to want to manage that output gain at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to end up overpowering everything. There we go. Squishing it. That's really squishing it. That's probably more what you wanted to do. Let's get that output turned back up so we can hear what we're doing better. Let's make some adjustments to our attack and release here.
Yeah, I like that because you can hear the bottom end of the dynamic range.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Nice. Yep, I like it.
Excellent. Cool.
Cool.
So move on to the snare then?
Let's do that.
Okay.
I'd actually like to hear the... Go ahead, you can do that. And then I'd like to hear the standard and maybe the tube compressor.
All right. Start with snare top or snare bottom?
Let's do the top.
You got it. All right. So got my snare top here. I've selected it. Make sure we're hearing things coming
We got
through.
the cross stick happening here.
Yeah, cross stick.
Cool.
All right. So do a little standard EQ to start, or compressor to start off with.
Sure, that'd be great.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Let's do a soft knee on this one. Makeup gain on that guy. So it's off. Really kind of hitting it there, getting a little squishy on there.
I just realized that if I was doing a cross stick and you wanted to have certain settings with a cross stick, and then others, when I'm playing the full snare, you could probably use the AB button, huh?
That's the perfect use for that, yeah. Whether you're going between two different instruments, like a guitar player, or for the case of a drummer, if you're switching back and forth between your cross stick and your full snare,
or maybe brushes,
you can go back
and sticks.
forth.
Right.
Yeah, brushes and sticks is another great example.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And that applies to not just the compressor, but the entire, all the EQ and what else? Compressor.
It's going to be all your
gate.
EQ and dynamics.
Okay.
So it's going to be your gate, compressor, and EQ.
Fancy. I like it.
You like fancy. Fancy's good. I like fancy too. We like to give people options so that you can have a better workflow for your live performances.
Yes.
All right. So that was the standard. It's a basic standard compressor, but
Okay.
I think we can probably do a little bit more. You said you wanted to hear the tube. I think that's a good choice. Let's see how that sounds.
So you came in a few hours ago and turned the tubes on so they'd be nice and warm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Basically, in the DSP, the tubes are always running.
Gotcha.
So that way you don't have to worry about turning them on an hour before your session.
Yeah.
It's the magical art of digital.
Options.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So, excuse me. All right. You're going to notice a lot of different controls on this one too. Now with the FET compressor, we had some different ratio settings. We had attack release. You notice none of that in this one.
Right.
This is a bare bones. You have a gain, which is the amount of signal, and then you have your peak reduction,
Right.
which is going to be basically the equivalent of your threshold. So as you adjust these two controls,
Okay.
it's going to compress based off of that, and pretty much everything else on this one is just the magic of the circuit under the hood.
Ooh, I like that.
All right, so let's see what it sounds like. I'm just going to go ahead and turn things up a little bit here. All right, so let's get some peak reduction. I'm just going to figure out where this one is. That's out. See, we're squishing that pretty hard.
Right.
You can definitely hear that. Let's dial it back a little bit. There we go.
I like that.
Ooh, listen to that snap. Ooh, that has some snap to it. I like that. So a little bit of a different flavor than the FET compressor.
Sure.
You get a little different sound, the way that it responds to the dynamics and the transients is going to be a little bit different.
Sure.
But depending on what it is you're looking for,
Okay.
that's the joy of having some options available on your inputs for your DSP processing.
For sure.
You've got different flavors to get the sound you're looking for.
Lovely.
Lovely.
And then what about EQs?
Oh, yeah. We also have the different EQ models. I've got the standard EQ, which is a 4-band fully parametric EQ.
Okay.
We've got, here, I'll just show them to you. So,
One of the first things I do when I'm recording is I apply EQ to the kick drum.
kick drum.
I'm
Okay.
sure that most people do that.
It's the foundation of your mix.
Yes, it is.
You can't build a house without a foundation. Your foundation is usually your drums, and your drums start with your kick because it's on channel 1. You always start with channel 1, right?
I do, yes.
Okay.
So
I'm going to
two
turn
things
off
that-
our compressor real quick just to make sure that we're
Sure.
not coloring what we're listening to the EQ with the compressor.
I like that.
Turn that off.
I like that you're doing that. And the two things that I normally do the most are kind of mess with a low cut.
Mhm.
And I learned this from Mr. Eric Welch. I also
He's a great engineer.
like to dial in I've learned to dial in the beater sound.
Okay.
Go find the beater and get the beater like I want it. And then really just kind of scoop out the stuff in between the beater and the body.
Okay.
A little bit.
So you're looking for a low shelf, you said?
Sure.
Is that what you said? A low shelf?
A low cut. Yeah.
Low cut.
Yeah.
Okay. So some low cut and
Just
just
to
like
get all
notching
the-
out something just to kind of get the
beater.
the resonant kind of like the nasty resonance out. Is that what you're looking to do on the low cut, or are you just looking to kind of just clean up the low end a little
Just
bit?
clean up the low end and tighten
Okay.
it just to
And
get
then-
rid of the
and then
stuff.
find
I
our
don't need.
beater
Right.
so that we can
Yep.
get that.
You
All
got
right.
it.
So let's start off with our 4-band fully parametric EQ.
Ah.
So let's change this guy here to a shelf. Oh, there goes
Okay.
all your sound.
Yep.
Turn this up a little bit. So we don't want that much. That's probably cutting it too much.
Too much. Yeah. Maybe lower the frequency just a little more. split the difference. Yeah, something like that.
All right. And then we can find our beater. It's probably going to be up around our high mids here. So I'm going to get a tight cue while we look for this.
A bit lower than that.
Yeah, we're getting into kind of that papery yuck. We don't want the papery yuck.
Somewhere around there.
All right, so I'm just gonna widen up that cue a little bit again. Then we'll bring that down to a nice respectful level.
And then just try what happens if we cut it. Just drop that out.
Oops.
Yeah, that kind of confirms what we're getting out of the sound there. And I might not want as much beater sound.
Yeah, you can totally take it away.
Right.
So,
Cool.
As you would expect from a 4-band fully parametric EQ, you can really kind of dial in and hone in on a specific area, specific frequency to get more of what I consider to be surgical EQ.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So, alternatively, for doing this type of EQ for something on a kick drum, may I recommend the Vintage?
A sommelier for audio.
Indeed. Let's see how this fits your palate, sir.
Okay.
All right. So now with this, it's not a fully parametric EQ, but we have some things that are fixed. So we've got our low frequency here, and that's a shelf. Okay. You can choose between a few different frequencies, and you have your boost and cut.
Okay.
You have your low mid, which is going to be a notch or bell. Again, you have a couple of different frequencies to choose from, boost and cut. Your high mid, same thing. And then you have your high frequency, which is fixed, and then you can adjust that between just boosting and cutting.
Okay.
So let's take a similar approach and kind of go after, cutting some of the lows and adding some of that beater back in. I'm going to turn this guy on. Let's start off pretty low here. So we take it all the way out. We don't want to take it that much out.
Yeah, I like that. Yep.
Okay. All right, so let's see if we can find that beater. I think we found it.
There it is. Yep.
Yep.
Actually, I like it cut a little bit. Not quite that much. Right there. Sure. Cool.
Sweet.
All right. And then...
So you can see with a vintage EQ like this, as opposed to the surgical EQ, with fewer options, we actually dialed in a sound that we really liked a lot faster.
Sure.
Now, part of that is because of the way the controls are exposed, but part of it also is going to be the circuit emulation that we've got in the DSP. Because of this circuit emulation that we have, it colors the sound just for the fact that we're running this particular processor.
Okay.
So completely different sound that we've got on that one as opposed to the other one.
Cool. And then what if I wanted to, could we just play with the last EQ there model? And maybe do something with the overheads, fun with the overheads?
Oh, I think that'd be perfect. The last EQ model is our passive, and it's great for things like overheads, the way that it has control. So let's take a look at that. Let's go into our overheads here. So with the overheads, again, you've got your standard EQ, it's kind of more a precision EQ, but let's just jump straight into our passive EQ. So with this one, we've got our low frequency, we have boost frequency information here. We have the bandwidth you want to choose for your mid frequency and your boost. We have a boost and attenuation. So you can. It's really weird. You can actually
turn up the attenuation,
boost and attenuate at the same time, which results in this really kind of crazy sound that becomes really useful sometimes. That allows you to kind of take out some things while accentuating kind of almost the similar area of frequencies. It's part of the allure of these vintage outboard processors is just the kinds of sounds you can get out of them by abusing them is really, not using them in the intended way, right? It really can lead to some wonderful results. So let's go ahead and dig into our overheads. Let's see what we've got here. Oh man, those overheads sound good. That's that new warm audio mic, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, we dig that. So let's go ahead and turn this guy on. And it looks like I probably had something on here before. That's all of my settings are all set up funny. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this closer to not making drastic changes to what we have going on. Because you notice as soon as we dial that in, it got crazy up in here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's try that again. Still going to change the sound because I didn't take a whole lot of time to get it fixed, but all right.
That already sounds good.
It does. All right. Don't even have to try with this one. Just turn it on. So, we can... There we go. A little more shimmer in those highs. We can turn that all the way off, right? I can bring that back in just a little bit. And what happens if I do attenuation and boost? Ooh. Interesting. You'll hear that in just a second when you kick up those dynamics. I think we're going to have some cool sounds on the low end here.
Nice.
Some pretty cool sounds you can get with that, right?
Yeah. And we can flip the order between the compressor and the EQ here.
Yeah, you notice that. So right up here, this is on an individual channel basis, so you can swap the order of your compressor and EQ. So if you like, by default, it's all going to be compressor first, then EQ. But if you'd like to swap that, you just hit this button here. You'll see now it says EQ first, then compressor.
Nice.
So that gives you more flexibility. One of the things with this mixer is a lot of ways to customize the workflow and the signal flow to fit your particular needs. It's one of the things that we really focused on with the Series 3 was giving you different ways to customize your mix and to customize your workflow to best fit your needs, whether you're here in the studio like we are today or you're doing a live performance with a band, with a church. Some really great options in there. So that's some of the different flavors that we've got in our fat channel processing, our EQ and our compressors.
That's a lot.
It is. But you can see pretty quickly how you can use these to get the sound you're looking for, try a few different flavors on different tracks, and then sometimes dial something in a lot quicker than you thought you could just because you're using something that's got a little bit of character to it. These models are on all 32 of your inputs. And coming up here pretty soon, we have the update for Studio One 3.5 that will have these models as well in the Fat Channel plugin in Studio One. So you get it on the console as well as being represented in Studio One. So your mix kind of goes with you.
And if I were to multi-track on the SD card, it's taking a snapshot of the mixer, right? So when I load that up in Studio One later, it would then pull up these plugins.
That's right. Yeah. So That's coming in one of our firmware updates that
Sure.
we're working on. The goal is to have that out at the same time as 3.5. And then essentially what we're going to do is exactly that. You record multi-track to your mixer. When you hit that stop button and save and close that session, it takes a snapshot of your mix. You then take that SD card, open it up in your computer in Studio One, and it pulls up all those fat channel plugins with the exact settings that you had on the mixer.
Right.
Great starting point to get you going.
But I still have my raw tracks underneath that, right?
Yeah.
Still tracking WAV files.
Exactly. And that's one of the wonderful
Unaffected.
things with the SD card. You
Right.
can record, by default, you're recording all the raw audio.
Right.
And then when you open it up, you've got all of your fat channel processing loaded up in Studio One.
Great.
But if you wanted to, you could record your channels post-processing.
I get this a setting in here per channel, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I love it.
So if you do want to print some of these awesome fat channel processing effects
For sure.
to your track, maybe you're not going into Studio One, or for whatever reason you're just really happy with it, you want to print it to the track, you can do that as well.
I love it.
Awesome. Cool. So we're going to take another break, but don't forget we still have some Q&A coming up, and we're giving away Studio One Pro and the new Air 10 PA speakers to a couple of lucky viewers. So be sure to stay tuned to find out if that lucky viewer might be you.
The Studio Live 24 Series 3 is a compact digital mixing powerhouse. The Studio Live 24 delivers the same 32-channel DSP, split-layer workflows, and over 20 mix buses as the Studio Live 32 in a smaller 24-channel frame. The Studio Live Series 3 family is about immense power and flexibility. It means choice in frame size and workflows. It means more options for multi-track recording and virtual sound check. It means no compromises in available DSP. With the Studio Live 24, you'll have the same multi-track recording without a computer, state-space modeled emulations of analog outboard gear, and flex mixes that can be changed between AUXs, subgroups, and matrix mixes. With Capture, we bridge the gap between the stage and the studio with simple one-touch recording that could then be opened in Studio One along with your complete mix scene. Now, that technology is integrated into the mixer itself. Pristine, uncompressed, multi-track recordings without a computer. Plugins that model vintage gear are a mainstay in the studio. Now, take those sounds live with vintage EQ and compressor model options available on every input channel. Of course, you also get them in Studio One with the new Series 3 Fat Channel plugin. 24 studio quality recallable X-Max preamps give your mix a clean and pristine sound. An additional 8 channels can be mixed in digitally with the built-in AVB networking, USB interface, or the multi-track SD card, all with complete fat channel processing in an elegant and compact frame. We've also included the same fat channel layout alongside a gorgeous 7-inch touchscreen to let you navigate with ease and precision. Take advantage of the custom user layers in both the fat channel and the faders, as well as 24 DCA groups to personalize your mixing experience. An unprecedented level of workflow customization that makes the Studio Live Series 3 an extension of yourself and your way of mixing. This is a new era in digital mixing. This is Studio Live.
All right, we're back.
Hey, all right.
Hey.
So Ray Tanzen here. We've got Rick back in the chair with me, and so we've had a lot of great questions coming through throughout the video. So let's take some questions.
Sure.
Also, we'll be selecting our winners for the pair of Air 10
10s.
speakers, as well as the copy of Studio One Pro. So
Yes.
let's see here. First question we have from Josiah Weston. Will SD recording USB tracks to, will recording USB tracks to SD card be possible in the future? Actually, you can do it now. So with the SD card, you can record whatever's coming in on the channels, every single channel on an individual channel basis. You can choose whether that's send to the digital send. So that's going to be all the digital sends, the SD card, your AVB, and your USB. You can choose whether that's coming from the analog input or from the digital return. So if you have playback from USB coming into the mixer, you just choose to use the digital source, digital input as the source for the digital send, and you can record that to the SD card.
That's really cool, because that's kind of like for the bands that are performing along with backing tracks, they can bring in their backing tracks using their laptop, but if you still want to record the show and have all 32 tracks, including your backing tracks coming from the computer recorded to the SD card, you can do that.
Absolutely. Yep.
That rocks.
Then we have Josh Sanchez. Is there a way to bypass the onboard preamps? Like say if somebody is using the Slate VRS, which has its own preamp sound and goes directly in bypassing the yes, you can. The first inputs, so on the 32 channel, it's going to be inputs 1 through 16. On the 24 channel, it's 1 through 12. And on the 16 channel, it's 1 through 8. On those ones, they are combo jacks, mic and line inputs. And the line input completely bypasses the preamp and goes straight to the converter.
Yeah, I think that this is a really good point, because on the previous Studio Live mixers, the line inputs were a little bit different in the fact that although they didn't have they were a line input, they did have an amplifier stage in them, whereas on the new Series 3, those line inputs, there's no analog amplifier stage. It's completely bypassing the mic pre, going straight to the converter. So if you're using outboard mic pre's, or if you're using things like the Slate mic that have a line level output and you want to come in completely uncolored and go straight to the converter, you can do that.
That's right.
Cool.
And the mixer knows when it's a 1/4 inch input, a line input plugged in versus a mic input, and it's automatically going to change your gain control from controlling the preamp to controlling a digital gain. So if you do need to boost up that incoming line input signal, you can do that in the digital stage, and it automatically just changes. So the same knob is still your gain knob. It just knows and will change that.
But it's
for
not
you.
adding any coloration from an analog circuit
Exactly.
at all.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we also have some questions from YouTube. It looks like these ones don't have names associated with them. But when will the Series 3 mixers get DAW control?
That's a very popular
Yeah.
question these days.
Yes, it is. So obviously, people have noticed that there is a DAW button on the mixer. So we're still wrapping up development on DAW control. We're actually going to be supporting DAW control native for Studio One, so it's going to have really tight integration with Studio One for DAW control. And we're also going to be doing DAW control with MCU and Huey modes for controlling third-party DAWs. That work is still in development, needs to go through testing. I don't have an exact date, but I can guarantee it will be this year.
Yeah, one of the things that, those of you that have been kind of part of our community know that we're very careful when announcing dates. But
We've learned the hard way.
Yeah, but please know that this feature is extremely important to us, and more important than even having a feature is to make sure that it's tested and that it's right. And so we have big plans for this, because the Studio Live new Series 3 mixers, we've created them to be amazing recording interfaces, and so then to be able to hit a button and control whatever DAW you're using is a big part of kind of the completing the whole vision of the product. So it is something that is big for us, and it's coming. So hang in there with us.
Cool. Ken Mazadas Jr. From Facebook asks, when's Rick going to grow a beastly beard and shave his head?
God, dude, if I did that, I would like totally be going for like the terrorist vibe, you know? actually, you know, I don't know, because like now, I always said that whenever my goatee would have a bunch of white in it, I was gonna like shave it off. And so it's almost at that point now, you know, like the other day I was like shaving, and I thought that I left some shaving cream up here, but no, it's just white, you know. So
oh man, yeah, I don't have that problem yet. I do have a couple of gray ones in there, but it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
All right, here's a question actually about the Studio Live AI series stuff. When is the next firmware update coming out for the AI and RM mixers to include Smart for iPad? So we've actually been working on that, and going into public beta next week will be some updates to the AI family mixers. This will include some fixes for some things for cascaded mixers. It also will include the Smart Go Remote functionality for the Smart Wizards.
Woo!
So you'll be able to select your iPad and go do that remotely. This public beta release won't yet have the ability to do Smart Spectrograph and RTA on the iPad, but we are working on that, and if everything goes well, we expect that to be available next month. So still continuing to do updates on the AI family stuff, and I would know there's a lot of other stuff that is on the AI platform that you guys have been waiting for. So, you know, we are doing updates to all Studio Live mixers.
That's right.
Is it also compatible, usable with Cubase? Yes.
Yes, it is.
So using either the USB or the AVB with a compatible computer. USB, it uses Core Audio, and on PCs it has ISO drivers. And then AVB uses Core Audio on a Mac. You can use any compatible audio software, and you basically use it as an audio interface. And then beyond audio interface stuff for control, like we mentioned earlier, that'll be coming soon.
So if I'm using Cubase or Logic or Pro Tools or Studio One, this shows up as a big interface with how many inputs and outputs to my DAW. Like, what does my DAW see this 32-channel mixer as?
So over USB, it's going to see the mixer as a 40 by 40.
Okay,
so
so
you're
40
get,
inputs, 40 outputs.
That's right. So you get all 32 of your input channels plus your 2 stereo aux inputs, your main mix, and
some other stuff.
yeah, I think it's talkback and then a channel that we've reserved for when we add a signal generator to the mixer. And then on AVB, it's 56 by 56.
Sweet.
So you get all of your inputs, including the aux inputs and the tape input, your talkback input, and then you also have 16 assignable channels that are going over AVB, which you can choose to come from any of your 16, any of the available mix buses.
So I get this question a lot too. People ask, using AVB, I'm going to come out of the Ethernet output of the mixer into an AVB compatible Apple computer, or you would need a card on the PC, right, to do this? Or
Yeah,
how does that work?
there's a couple options on the PC. Unfortunately, none of them are inexpensive.
Right.
There is a card available from Echo, which you get a card and you get a driver. And then there's another one from a company called Audio Science. You know, but we have those and we've tested them and we're in the process of testing them. They seem to work, but they're not cheap options. So, but with Apple computers, Apple has actually been supporting AVB for several Opera OS releases now. Their hardware has been supporting it since I think 2012, if I remember correctly, maybe even earlier than that. And so it just works inherently as part of the Apple ecosystem.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, let's see. We have some questions. Garrett Bicknell and Derek Plodzicki, sorry about that, asking about using the RM mixers as stage boxes for the new Series 3. So unfortunately, no. The AI platform, AVB, which is what's in the AI consoles and the RM, that's an early version of some cutting-edge AVB technology that we were working on. And now with the new AVB platform, the Series 3 is full interoperable AVB. And unfortunately, the chipsets just aren't compatible, so we can't do backwards compatibility with the RM family stuff. So, you know, we are looking into some options of doing it, but right now it just doesn't do it, and you know, it's looking like an uphill battle, and we're not sure if we're going to be able to pull it off. But we do have some engineers looking into it.
So if I have an RM mixer, I can use it with a CS18. You know, it's compatible, and I can also use it with an AI console.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, and then eventually, and I'm sure there's questions about it, for the Series 3 family, we're going to have a new family of AVB peripherals, which would include stage boxes.
That's
and
right.
These kind of things coming.
Yeah, so we have a complete AVB ecosystem coming for the Series 3 mixers. So we will have our own AVB switch coming out. We'll have some different stage box options, quite a few different flavors, personal monitor mixers, and all of that stuff is going to be out this year. The first stage box solutions, our schedule right now is showing them reaching customers' hands around September. So we ship them from the factory in August, and then the customers start receiving them in September. That's the current schedule. So we're trying to keep with that and make sure that we can get these.
You set a date.
Out. I did. Oh man, this one I'm feeling pretty good about though, because
Okay.
we're pretty far along in the process on some of these things. So,
Right on.
but yeah, no promises. That's just our current schedule, and well, we know how software development goes.
Yeah, and more importantly, you know, I mean, these Series 3 mixers were in development for a long time. You know, our plan originally was we wanted to ship them last year, but you know, I tell this to a lot of people that I talk to. You know, our main objective is to make sure that by the time these products get to our customers' hands, they're rock solid. They've had, you know, thousands of hours of testing, and not just testing in somebody's office or in a lab, but gig testing, you know.
Yeah.
And I can tell you just from personal experience, because you know I'm one of the guys that actually takes these things out, you know, long before these are going to be out on your gigs. They're on my gigs, and we're using them with my band, and you know, part of it is that when these products ship, you know, I like to be able to tell customers, yeah, I mean, I've played 6 months on these, you know, or I mean, I literally have been playing gigs on these Series 3 mixers for about a year now. So it's a good feeling to be able to know that. So a lot of times when our schedules slip, it's because of this. It's because we want to have as much real-world testing, because we want to ship solid products. Simple. So
There you have it.
there it is.
All right, let's do one more question, and then we're going to do our giveaways. So last question, are the gators real? Yes, they are.
Yes.
We have a pond in the back of the office that actually connects right up with the bayou that runs back here. And
3 of them.
Yeah, there's a family of gators that have moved in. So
Yeah, there was one, and then all of a sudden one day he looked a lot bigger, and then we kind of figured out that was like Junior and Grandpa, you know, basically. And they kind of cruise in. I mean, the other day, I think it was yesterday, I was on the phone, I was kind of walking around, I went outside, and the big daddy, like Pawpaw, you know, his head was in the water, and like his tail was hanging out, and he was just like chilling, you know. So
yeah, they like to go out and
quite cool.
sunbathe on the back bank there off the pond. So so yeah, the signs that say wildlife in the area, use caution, are real.
Yes.
All right, let's give some stuff away.
Right.
Excellent.
Let's do that.
So first, we've got a copy of Studio One Pro. So let's do
Drum roll.
Mario Efran Trevino.
Yeah.
You just won Studio One Pro.
Mario.
And we also have a pair of our new Air 10 PA speakers.
Awesome.
So those will go to Nick Boganum. Nick Boganum. So Mario and Nick, our social media manager, will be in touch with you guys to help get delivery of your awesome new prizes.
Love it.
Yes, indeed.
Very cool.
So thank you for joining us for another exciting PreSonus Live, where we talk about the new Series 3 family. It's all part of the PreSonus fam, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.
Studio Live. It's about bringing together two worlds in harmony: studio and live sound production. It's about expanding what's possible with new technology, helping you create inspiring performances. You put your heart and soul into every mix, and that's why we put ours into the Studio Live Series 3 digital mixers. We began by engineering a new platform capable of more in a compact digital mixer than was ever even feasible in the past. Things like multi-track recording without a computer, state space modeled emulations of analog outboard gear, and flex mixes that can change between auxes, subgroups, and matrix mixes. With Capture, we bridge the gap between stage and studio with simple one-touch recording that could then be opened in Studio One along with your complete mix scene. Now, that technology is integrated into the mixer itself. Pristine, uncompressed multi-track recordings without a computer. Plugins that model vintage gear are a mainstay in the studio. Now, take those sounds live with vintage EQ and compressor model options available on every input channel. Of course, you also get them in Studio One with the new Series 3 Fat Channel plugin. A great sounding mixer and cutting-edge technology are only pieces to a complete mixing experience. Workflow, how you navigate your mix and access features. This is where the Studio Live Series 3 goes from great to extraordinary. An all-new Fat Channel layout, driven by user feedback, works alongside a gorgeous touchscreen to let you navigate with ease and precision. Work with your channels in a traditional one-to-one layout, or use the unique split layer workflow, utilizing filtered DCA groups and group spills. We know no two users are the same. That's why we also provide customizable layouts for both channel faders and the Fat Channel. An unprecedented level of workflow customization that makes the Studio Live Series 3 an extension of yourself and your way of mixing. This is a new era in digital mixing. This is Studio Live.